Hey guys, wanted to go over some important differences between a couple of very similar lifts today because they come up very frequently in programs, or at least good programs are going to include these three lifts most of the time. The three lifts that we're talking about are the stiff-legged deadlift, the Romanian deadlift, and the traditional deadlift, otherwise known as conventional deadlift. So these three very core lifts in various programs, and three lifts that we use pretty frequently here as well. So I'm going to go over each individually and then talk about some pros and cons of why you would choose to do one over the other. So first, conventional deadlift. As I approach the bar for this lift, my feet should be fairly narrow, say about 3 or 4 inches between your feet, and you should have your shoelaces of your shoes underneath the bar. So the bar is pretty close to your shins. As I approach the grip of the bar, I'm going to brace my back and my belly first before I reach down for the bar, and I'm going to squat down towards the bar and take a narrow grip just outside of my thighs, so just so that my arms are not rubbing on my thighs. Now, as I begin to lift up on this, my first movement is going to be to get my knees out of the way so that the bar can travel straight up past my knees, and then I'm going to squeeze my hips into the bar so that my shoulders end up behind the bar. So you can see when I started, my shoulders are over the top of the bar. They shift a little bit here, they stay over the top, over the top. Now as I fire my hips in, my shoulders end up behind the bar. Now, one of the great things about that lift, it activates basically every major muscle in your body. I would challenge you to find a muscle it doesn't work. Primarily, you're going to feel that in your quads, a bit in your low back, and you should feel your glutes really working towards the end of the lift. So that would be the areas you're trying to work when you would choose to use this lift. Another great advantage of this lift is you're going to be able to really challenge yourself with very heavy weights. So metabolically and overall total body strength are going to be challenged and built with this lift. Now there's some similarities to that when we transition now to the stiff-legged deadlift. The real difference here is going to be the height of my hips when I start. My legs are going to be almost completely straight, but it's important that they're not completely locked out. So I'll approach the bar the same way. Again, stiff-legged deadlift. Bar again very close to my shins. My feet are fairly close together. I brace my belly and my back before I reach for the bar. But now, instead of squatting down to the bar, I'm just going to have a slight bend to my knees and then bend at my hips to reach down for this bar, again with a narrow grip. So you can see my hips are very high, and I'm going to keep them high and only using my hips now to raise the bar. I'm going to really feel a stretch on my hamstrings here. Your low back will be worked, but it shouldn't be the prime mover because it's staying at the same bend, the same angle the entire time. So one more time, I'm really going to squeeze my hips all the way up and then lock out. Again, same lockout position I had for the conventional deadlift. As I mentioned, hamstring is going to be stretched there, so that's going to be the primary muscle you're going after with the stiff-legged deadlift. You will also be challenging your back to remain stable, and your grip can get tested fairly well across all three of these lifts as well. Last one, Romanian deadlift. Technically speaking, this lift should be, the beginning of this lift should start out of a rack because you should start standing first. For our purposes, we're still going to pick it up off the ground, but then we're going to get set up to now do a Romanian deadlift, because the key difference here is that the bar is not going to reach all the way down to the ground. Other than that, it's very similar to the stiff-legged deadlift. So how I approach this bar is a little bit less important, but for the sake of consistency, do it the same way as we did for the conventional and stiff-legged deadlift. I'm going to stand it all the way up. Now, I'm going to get my back set, get my shoulders, belly set, slight bend to the knees. Again, I'm going to bend just at the hips. I'm going to get this bar just a little bit below my knees and then fire back up. A little bit below the knees, fire back up. So you can see from that, very similar to the stiff-legged deadlift, the difference is the range of motion. So if you have flexibility issues, this can be a great stand-in for stiff-legged deadlifts that still really targets the hamstrings, works the glutes, challenges your low back to remain stable. Very important that we keep that low back stability. You should keep your normal curvature of your spine throughout the entire range of this lift. That can be a great signifier for you if you're trying a stiff-legged deadlift and you're not able to keep your back straight, that you should go back to Romanian deadlifts until you're able to fix that flexibility problem. Good luck, guys. This is a great strength builder. Let us know how it goes when you utilize it.